I found 263 letters, Swan, hidden inside my grandmother's tractor. Every single one returned unopened. She spent 18 years searching for me while I thought no one in the world wanted me. But I'm getting ahead of myself. Let me tell you how I found them. 3 months earlier, I stood in the parking lot of Fairview Foster Home with everything I owned stuffed into 2 canvas duffel bags. $87 in my pocket. 18 years old as of that morning. The system was done with me. Diana Foster stood on the porch, arms crossed against the February cold. She'd been my placement for the last 14 months. Not the worst, not the best. Just another temporary stop in a long line of temporary stops. You sure about this, Willa? You could stay another few weeks. Get your bearings. I shook my head. The invitation was kind but hollow. We both knew how this worked. 18 meant out, no exceptions. I'll be fine. She nodded, didn't argue. You're stronger than you think. I wanted to believe her. The Greyhound station was 6 blocks away. I walked. The morning air cut through my jacket, but I didn't mind. Cold meant I was feeling something. Cold meant I was still here. The bus to Riverside, Montana wasn't leaving for another 2 hours. I sat on a bench and counted my money again. $87. The ticket cost $43. That left me with $44 to start a new life in a town I'd never heard of, to collect an inheritance from a woman I'd never met. A grandmother I didn't know existed until 3 days ago. The letter had arrived on Tuesday. Cream-colored envelope. Return address from a law office 300 miles away. I'd stood in the kitchen holding it, certain it was a mistake. Diana had watched me open it, watched my hands shake as I read. Dear Miss Thorne, I am writing to inform you of the passing of your grandmother, Adelaide Thorne. As her sole heir, you have inherited her estate, including 700 acres of farmland, the family home, and all associated assets. Please contact my office at your earliest convenience to discuss the transfer of property. The words blurred. I read them again, then again. A grandmother, sole heir. I'd read it 3 times before the words made sense. Then I'd called the number. A woman answered. Professional voice. Sloan Mercer, estate attorney. She'd confirmed everything. Adelaide Thorne had died 6 weeks ago. Heart failure. 72 years old. She'd spent the last 2 decades maintaining a farm in Riverside, Montana. Population 1,100. And she'd left everything to me. Did she ever mention me? I'd asked. There was a pause on the line. She talked about you every day, Miss Thorne. You were all she talked about. I didn't understand. But I've been in foster care since I was 7 months old. They told me I had no family. Another pause, longer this time. The situation is complicated, Miss Thorne. I think it would be better if we discuss this in person. When can you come to Riverside? 3 days later, I was on a bus heading northwest through country I'd never seen toward a life I couldn't imagine, to claim an inheritance from a ghost. The landscape changed as the hours passed. Cities gave way to towns. Towns gave way to fields. The road climbed into mountains, then descended into valleys so wide and empty, they made my chest ache. I'd spent my entire life in group homes and foster houses in Seattle. Concrete and rain, traffic and crowds. This was different. This was space. Miles and miles of nothing but earth and ski, and the occasional cluster of buildings that barely qualified as a town. I pressed my forehead against the window and watched Montana scroll past. Brown fields waiting for spring. Barbed wire fences stretching toward horizons I couldn't see. Houses so isolated they looked like islands in an ocean of land. An older woman across the aisle leaned over. First time in big sky country. Yes, ma'am. What brings you out here? Inheritance, a farm. Her eyebrows rose. That's something. You know anything about farming? Nothing. She smiled, not unkind. You'll learn. People out here are good about teaching, long as you're willing to work. I nodded and turned back to the window. Willing to work was the only thing I knew how to be. Riverside appeared just after 3 in the afternoon. Main Street was 4 blocks long. I counted a diner, a feed store, a bank, a post office, and a gas station with 2 pumps. That was it. The rest was houses and fields stretching in every direction. The bus dropped me in front of the post office. The driver pulled my bags from the cargo hold and drove away without a word. I stood on the sidewalk and tried not to panic. A woman in her 60s swept the steps of the building next door. She glanced up, saw me, and stopped mid-stroke. You must be Adelaide's granddaughter. I blinked. How did you know? She smiled, sad but warm. You look just like her. Same eyes, same way of standing. I'm Delphine Crane. I run the diner down the street. Willa Thorne. I know, honey. The whole town knows. Adelaide talked about you for 18 years. Said you'd come home eventually. She leaned the broom against the wall. You need a ride out to the farm. I'm supposed to meet the lawyer. Sloane Mercer. Her office is 3 blocks that way. Tell her Delphine says hello. She paused. And Willa, welcome home. Your grandmother would be so happy you're here. The words caught in my throat. How could Adelaide be happy when she'd never met me, when I'd never even known she existed? But Delphine had already gone inside. Sloane Mercer's office was above the bank. Small space, wooden desk, file cabinets lining the walls. She was younger than I'd expected, mid-30s, sharp suit, kind eyes. She stood when I entered. Willa Thorne, thank you for coming all this way. We shook hands. Her grip was firm. Please sit. She gestured to a chair. Can I get you anything, coffee, water? I'm fine. She nodded and pulled a folder from her desk. Thick manila, my name written across the tab in neat handwriting. Your grandmother left very specific instructions regarding her estate. Everything goes to you. The farm, the house, the land, and $42,000 in savings. She slid a document across the desk. This is the deed to the property. It's been in your family for 3 generations. I stared at the paper. The words seemed to float above the page, refusing to settle into meaning. Miss Mercer. Sloane, please. Sloane, I don't understand. Why me? I've never met her. I didn't even know she existed. Sloane's expression softened. That's not entirely true, Willa. You did meet her once, when you were 6 months old. My chest tightened. What happened? Your father died in a car accident when you were 6 months old. Your mother struggled after that. Severe depression. She couldn't cope. When you were 7 months old, she gave you up, signed over custody to the state. In Adelaide, she fought for you, filed for custody immediately, grandparent rights, but the court denied her petition. They said she was too old, too set in her ways, not equipped to raise an infant. The decision devastated her. The room felt too small, too warm. So she just gave up. No. Sloane's voice was firm. She never gave up. She hired lawyers, private investigators, filed petition after petition, but the system blocked her at every turn. Foster care records are sealed. She couldn't find you, couldn't contact you. All she could do was wait and hope that one day you'd find your way back. 18 years. 18 years. Sloane opened the folder and pulled out a photograph. She kept this on her mantle. The photo showed a woman holding an infant. The woman had dark hair streaked with gray, strong features, eyes that looked familiar in a way that made my throat tight. She was smiling at the camera, but her eyes were on the baby in her arms. That's you, Sloane said quietly. 6 months old, 2 weeks before your father died. Adelaide said this was the happiest day of her life. I couldn't speak, couldn't breathe. I just stared at the photo and tried to understand that this woman, this stranger, had loved me for 18 years without ever seeing me again. The farm is yours, Sloane continued. Free and clear, no mortgage, no debt. Adelaide made sure of that. She wanted you to have a place to come home to, a place that belonged to you. I don't know anything about farming. You'll learn. The community here is good. People will help. She paused. There's one more thing. Adelaide left you a letter. She wrote it 2 weeks before she died. I think you should read it when you're ready. She handed me an envelope, cream-colored. My name written across the front in shaky handwriting. I held it like it might shatter. The farm was 2 miles outside of town. Sloane drove me. We didn't talk much. I sat in the passenger seat with the letter in my lap and watched the landscape roll past. Fields, fences, the occasional house set back from the road. Everything brown and dormant under the February sky. Then Sloane turned onto a gravel drive, and I saw it. The house was white. 2 stories, green shutters, a wraparound porch that looked like it belonged in a painting. Behind it stood a barn painted deep red, its paint faded but still bold against the gray horizon. And beyond that, fields stretched toward the mountains like an ocean frozen mid-wave. All of this, mine. I couldn't process it. Sloane parked in front of the house. Take your time. I'll be in my office if you need anything. The utilities are still on. Adelaide made sure everything would be ready for you. Thank you. She squeezed my shoulder and drove away. I stood alone in the driveway with my 2 duffel bags and tried to remember how to breathe. The house was unlocked. The door swung open easily like it had been waiting for me. Inside, everything was clean, tidy. The furniture was old but well maintained. A couch, a wooden table, chairs worn smooth by decades of use. Family photos covered every surface. I picked one up. A man and woman, young, smiling. The woman was holding a baby. My parents. Me. I set the photo down carefully and moved through the house like a ghost. The kitchen was stocked. Canned goods lined the shelves. The refrigerator hummed quietly full of food that someone had placed there recently. Bread, milk, eggs, cheese, butter. Like Adelaide had known I was coming. Like she'd prepared for me even after she was gone. Upstairs, there were 3 bedrooms. The master was clearly Adelaide's. Bed made, dresser organized, a Bible on the nightstand. The second room was an office. Desk covered in notebooks and files. Maps on the walls. The third room was smaller, a single bed, a dresser, a window overlooking the fields. A boy's room. My father's room. I sat on the bed and opened Adelaide's letter. The handwriting was shaky but determined, like she'd forced her failing body to write each word. My dearest Willa, if you're reading this, I'm gone. I'm sorry I couldn't be there to meet you. I tried so hard to find you. 18 private investigators, 47 court petitions. They all failed. The system wouldn't let me reach you. But I never stopped trying. I never stopped believing you'd come home. This farm is yours. Everything I have is yours. It's been in our family for 3 generations. Your great-grandfather built this house. Your grandfather worked this land. Your father loved it here. And now it's yours. I know you don't know anything about farming. That's okay. You'll learn. The people in Riverside are good. They'll help you. Silas Whitfield worked this land with me for 40 years. He'll teach you everything you need to know. I wish I could have been there to watch you grow up. I wish I could have been the grandmother you deserved. But I'm proud of you, Willa. I'm proud of the woman you've become. You're strong. You're brave. You survived a system that tried to break you. And now you're home. Don't let anyone take this from you. Don't let anyone tell you that you don't belong here. This is your land, your home, your legacy. I love you. I always have. I always will. Welcome home, sweetheart, Grandma Adelaide. I folded the letter carefully and cried for the first time since the social worker had picked me up from my mother's apartment 18 years ago. I woke the next morning to silence so complete it felt like pressure against my ears. No traffic, no voices, no sounds of other people living their lives beyond thin walls. Just silence. I lay in my father's childhood bed and stared at the ceiling and tried to understand that this was real, that I was here, that this place belonged to me. Eventually, I got up. The kitchen was exactly as I'd left it. I made coffee, stood at the window, watched the sun rise over fields that stretched farther than I could see. A truck appeared at the end of the driveway. Old Ford, rust-colored. It pulled up to the house and stopped. An older man climbed out, late 60s, work clothes, hands that looked like they'd spent decades gripping tools. He knocked on the door. I opened it. "You must be Willa." His voice was rough but not unkind. "I'm Silas Whitfield. Worked with your grandmother for 40 years. Thought I'd come by. See if you needed anything." "I don't know what I need," he smiled. "Small but genuine." "That's honest. Most folks wouldn't admit that. You eatin' breakfast?" "Just coffee." "Come on, Delphine's Diner makes the best eggs in 3 counties. We'll get you fed. Then I'll show you around the place." Every instinct I'd developed over 18 years in foster care screamed at me not to trust strangers, not to accept help, not to believe that anyone actually wanted to be kind without expecting something in return. But Silas just stood there, patient, waiting. "Okay," I said finally, "let me get my jacket." The diner was packed. Saturday morning, every booth full, every stool at the counter occupied. Conversations overlapped into a wall of sound that should have been overwhelming but somehow wasn't. Delphine saw us come in and waved us toward a booth in the back. "Silas Whitfield, are you corrupting Adelaide's granddaughter already?" "Just feeding her Del. Girl's too skinny." Delphine poured coffee without asking if we wanted any. "You settling in okay, honey?" "I think so. It's a lot, I know. Big place, big responsibility. But you've got people here. You're not alone." She pulled out a notepad. "What can I get you?" "Just eggs, scrambled. Toast, bacon, pancakes." "Just eggs is fine." "You need more than eggs, sweetheart. I'll bring you the special." "Silas, the usual. You know me too well." She disappeared into the kitchen. Silas wrapped his hands around his coffee mug and studied me across the table. "Adelaide talked about you every single day," he said. "Kept your baby picture on the mantle. Used to tell me stories about the day you were born, how perfect you were, how much your father loved you. She never stopped believing you'd come home. Why didn't she just call me, write to me directly? She tried. Social services blocked her every time. Foster care records are sealed. She couldn't get your contact information. Couldn't find out which homes you were placed in. The system is designed to keep families apart sometimes, even when they're trying to be together. The food arrived. Eggs, bacon, toast, hash browns, pancakes, enough to feed 3 people. I told you I'd bring the special, Delphine said. Eat. You look like you haven't had a decent meal in weeks. She wasn't wrong. We ate, Silas talked, told me about the farm, about Adelaide, about the community, about how everyone had been waiting for me to come home. There's one thing you should know, he said as we finished. Adelaide's nephew, Callum Thorne. He's been hanging around the farm the last couple years, helped her with some of the work. He's going to have opinions about you inheriting everything. What kind of opinions? The kind that make me nervous. Just be careful around him. Don't sign anything without having Sloan look at it first. Why would I sign anything? Because Callum's the type who'll try to convince you that you need him, that you can't run the place without him. Don't believe it. You're Adelaide's granddaughter. This farm is yours. Don't let anyone tell you different. His words felt like a warning, like he knew something he wasn't saying. But I nodded and thanked him and tried to push down the unease settling in my stomach. Silas drove me back to the farm and gave me a tour, pointed out the fields, the irrigation system, the equipment shed, the barn. Inside the barn, tucked in the far corner, sat an old tractor. John Deere. Green paint faded to gray, covered in dust and cobwebs. That was your father's favorite, Silas said. Used to ride on it with Adelaide when he was little. She couldn't bring herself to get rid of it after he died. Just let it sit here. A memorial, I guess. I walked over and ran my hand along the hood. The metal was cold, solid, real. Adelaide loved that machine, Silas continued. Wouldn't let anyone touch it. Said it was staying exactly where it was. Something about his tone made me look up. What aren't you telling me? He hesitated. Probably nothing. But a few weeks before she died, Adelaide asked me to help her move it. Just a few feet. Said she wanted it in a different spot. Wouldn't tell me why. And she made me promise not to mention it to Callum. Why? I don't know, but Adelaide was sharp right up until the end. If she didn't want Callum knowing something, there was a reason. We stood there in the quiet barn staring at the old tractor, and I felt the first whisper of something I couldn't name. A sense that there was more to this inheritance than land and money. That Adelaide had left me something else. Something hidden. Something worth protecting. I spent the rest of the day exploring. Walked the fields, examined the equipment, sat on the porch and watched the sun set behind the mountains. That night I went through Adelaide's office, opened drawers, read through files, found financial records dating back decades. Tax returns, equipment receipts, maintenance logs. She'd kept everything organized, labeled, easy to follow. In the bottom drawer I found a notebook, leather-bound, worn. I opened it, a journal. Adelaide's handwriting filled every page. Dates, notes about the farm, weather observations, crop rotations, and scattered throughout entries about me. March 15th, Willa is 11 today. I wonder if she knows, if anyone celebrated with her. I sent a letter to the last address I had. It came back, address unknown, as always. December 25th, Christmas. I set a place at the table for Willa. Silly, I know, but I can't help hoping that one day she'll sit here. That one day she'll come home. June 3rd, 18 years. Willa is an adult now. If she wants to find me, she can. The records will be unsealed. I pray she does. I pray she knows I never stopped looking. I read every entry, cover to cover, 18 years of hope and heartbreak written in careful script, and tucked between the last pages I found something else. A small brass key, no label, no explanation, just a key. I held it up to the light and tried to figure out what it opened. I didn't sleep that night. Couldn't. My mind kept circling back to the journal, to the key, to Adelaide's words, to the feeling that I was missing something important. At dawn, I gave up and went downstairs, made coffee, stood at the kitchen window, and watched the sky turn from black to gray to gold. A vehicle appeared at the end of the driveway. Not Silas's truck. This was a Chevrolet SUV, black, expensive. It pulled up to the house and stopped. A man climbed out, 30 maybe. Flannel shirt that looked too clean for farm work, leather boots that had never seen mud, dark hair, confident walk. He knocked. I opened the door. Willa Thorne. His smile was friendly but didn't reach his eyes. I'm Callum Thorne, Adelaide's nephew. I've been meaning to stop by. Welcome to Riverside. Thank you. Mind if I come in? I wanted to talk to you about the farm. Every nerve in my body screamed at me to say no, but I stepped back and let him enter. He walked through the living room like he owned it, touched the furniture, looked at the photos. Adelaide did a good job keeping the place up. Of course, I helped with a lot of the maintenance these last couple years. Tough for an old woman to manage all this alone. She had Silas. Silas is old too. Most of the real work fell to me. He turned to face me. Look, I'll be straight with you. You seem like a nice kid, but you don't know anything about running a farm. This place needs someone who knows what they're doing, someone who can make decisions, handle the equipment, manage the finances. I'm planning to learn. That takes years. You don't have years. You've got bills, taxes, equipment that needs maintenance, crops that need planting. This isn't something you can figure out on YouTube. So what are you suggesting? Partnership. I keep running the place like I have been. You learn from me. We split the profits. That way you don't lose everything while you're getting your bearings. Adelaide left the farm to me, not to us. His smile tightened. Adelaide was sick at the end, confused. She didn't understand the reality of the situation. But I do, and I'm offering to help you, to protect what's yours. I appreciate the offer, but I need time to think about it. Sure, of course. He pulled a card from his pocket and set it on the table. My number. Call me when you're ready to be realistic about this. He walked to the door, paused. Oh, and Willa, don't let Silas fill your head with stories. He's a good man, but he's stuck in the past. This farm needs to move forward. Keep that in mind. Then he was gone. I watched his SUV disappear down the driveway and felt my hands shake. Everything Silas had said was true. Callum had an angle, and I had no idea what it was. I called Sloan Mercer that afternoon. Callum came by this morning, I said. Offered to partner with me on the farm. There was a pause. What did you tell him? That I needed time to think. Good. Don't agree to anything. I'm going to do some digging, see if I can find out what he's been up to the last couple years. Silas said Adelaide didn't trust him. Adelaide was smart. If she didn't trust him, there was a reason. Give me a few days. I'll see what I can find. Sloan, there's something else. I found a key in Adelaide's journal. Small brass key, no label. Any idea what it opens? Another pause. No, but Adelaide was meticulous. If she left you a key, it opens something important. Keep it safe. I hung up and went back to Adelaide's office. Pulled the journal out again. Read through every entry looking for clues. And then I saw it. A date. 3 weeks before Adelaide died. Moved the tractor today. Silas helped. It's in the right place now. Where it needs to be. Where she'll find what I've left for her when she comes home. Everything is ready. My heart started to pound. The tractor. Adelaide had moved the tractor. Had Silas help her. Had said it was in the right place. Where I'd find what she'd left. I grabbed a flashlight and ran to the barn. The barn was dark, cold. I flipped on the overhead lights, and they flickered to life, casting harsh shadows across the walls. The John Deere sat exactly where it had been yesterday. Corner of the barn, covered in dust. I walked over slowly, ran my hand along the hood again, felt the cold metal under my palm. Adelaide had loved this machine, had kept it as a memorial to my father. And 3 weeks before she died, she'd moved it, put it in the right place. Why I walked around it, examined it from every angle, looked for anything out of place, anything unusual. And then I saw it, the seat. The vinyl was cracked and faded. But there was something off about it, a slight gap along the seam, like it had been opened recently. I climbed up onto the tractor, ran my fingers along the edge of the seat, found a latch, pulled. The seat lifted. Inside was a compartment, custom built, and sitting in that compartment was a metal box, rust-colored. My hands shook as I lifted it out. It was heavy, solid. The lock on the front was small, brass. I pulled the key from my pocket. My fingers trembled as I slid it into the lock. It turned, but I stopped. Something made me hesitate. The weight of the box, the importance of this moment, the knowledge that whatever was inside had been important enough for Adelaide to hide. I took a breath, steadied myself, then opened it. Inside were letters, stacks of them, all in envelopes, all addressed to me at addresses I didn't recognize, and all stamped with the same red ink. Return to sender, address unknown. My vision blurred. I pulled one out. The postmark was dated 18 years ago, my first birthday. Opened it with shaking hands. Dearest Willa, you're 1 year old today. I don't know where you are. The state won't tell me, but I'm writing anyway. Because even if you never read this, I need you to know that I'm thinking of you, that I love you, that I'm searching for you. Happy birthday, sweetheart. I'll find you. I promise. Love always, Grandma Adelaide. The paper trembled in my hands. I set it down carefully. Picked up another. Dearest Willa, you're 5 today. Do you like cake? I bought one anyway. Chocolate. Your father's favorite. I put 5 candles on it and made a wish that you'd come home. I hired another investigator this week, the 7th. He says he can find you. They all say that, but I have to keep trying. I can't give up on you. Happy birthday, my darling girl. Love, Grandma Adelaide. I opened letter after letter, each one a snapshot of a year I'd lived without knowing she existed. Each one proof that someone had been thinking of me, hoping for me, loving me, my 10th birthday, my 13th, my 16th, and finally the last one, dated 8 weeks ago. My dearest Willa, this is my 263rd letter to you, 18 years, 263 times I've tried to reach you, and every time my words came back to me. But I never stopped hoping. If you're reading this, you found your way home. You found the letters. You found me, even though I'm gone. I'm so sorry I couldn't be there. Sorry I couldn't watch you grow up. Sorry the system kept us apart. But I need you to know something. You were never alone. Every birthday, every Christmas, every ordinary Tuesday, I was thinking of you, writing to you, loving you. This farm is yours. The land is yours. The house is yours. And my love is yours. It always has been. It always will be. Be strong, sweetheart. Be brave. Don't let anyone take what belongs to you. I'm so proud of you. Welcome home. Love always, Grandma Adelaide. I sat on the cold barn floor surrounded by 18 years of love I'd never known existed, and I cried until I couldn't breathe. 263 letters, 18 years of searching, and I'd never known. I'd spent my whole life thinking no one wanted me, thinking I was alone, thinking I didn't matter to anyone. But I'd been wrong. Someone had wanted me. Someone had loved me. Someone had spent 18 years writing letters and hoping and praying that someday I'd read them. And now I had. I don't know how long I sat there. Time lost meaning. The barn grew darker as the sun set, but I didn't move. Eventually, I gathered the letters carefully, started putting them back in the metal box. That's when I noticed something else in the compartment. A manila envelope, thick, sealed. I pulled it out, tore it open. Inside were documents, financial records, receipts, bank statements, photographs, and a note in Adelaide's handwriting. Willa, if you're reading this, you found the letters. Good. But there's more you need to know. Callum has been stealing from me. I have proof. I've documented everything. The receipts, the transactions, the missing equipment. I tried to confront him, but he threatened me. Said if I told anyone, he'd make sure you never inherited anything. So I'm telling you instead. The evidence is all here. But there's more. Hidden deeper. You'll need help finding it. Trust Silas. He knows. Don't let Callum take what's yours. Don't let him steal your legacy. Be strong, sweetheart. Be smart. And finish what I couldn't. I love you. Grandma Adelaide. My hands went numb. Adelaide had known, had documented Callum's theft, had hidden evidence. But not all of it was here. There was more, hidden deeper. I looked at the tractor, at the empty seat compartment. What else had Adelaide hidden, and how was I supposed to find it? I heard the SUV before I saw it. The engine growled in the quiet evening. Headlights swept across the barn wall. Callum. My heart started racing. I shoved the metal box back into the tractor seat, closed the compartment, climbed down, tried to look casual. The barn door slid open. Callum stood in the doorway, backlit. His expression was hard. What are you doing out here? Just looking around. He stepped inside, looked at the tractor, at me. His eyes narrowed. You shouldn't be messing with that thing. It's old, dangerous. Adelaide kept it for sentimental reasons, but it's worthless. I was just curious. Curious? He walked closer, stopped a few feet away. You know what your problem is, Willa. You don't know when to leave well enough alone. This farm is complicated. There are things you don't understand, things Adelaide didn't tell you. Like what? like debts, obligations, agreements she made that you're now responsible for. Sloan didn't mention any debts, because Sloan doesn't know everything. He smiled, cold, but I do. And if you're smart, you'll accept my partnership offer, because if you don't, things are going to get very difficult for you. My heart was pounding, but I kept my voice steady. Is that a threat? It's a warning from family. Take it however you want. He turned and walked out of the barn. The SUV started, drove away. I stood alone in the dim light and realized something terrifying. Callum knew. He knew Adelaide had left evidence. He knew I was a threat, and he wasn't going to let me keep this farm without a fight. I pulled out my phone, called Sloan Mercer. We need to talk, I said when she answered. Right now. What happened? I found something Adelaide hid, and Callum knows I'm looking. I'm on my way. I hung up, grabbed the metal box from the tractor, carried it back to the house, locked every door, closed every curtain, and sat at Adelaide's kitchen table surrounded by 263 letters she'd written to a granddaughter she'd never stop loving. Tomorrow I'd fight for this place. Tonight I'd read every single letter because Adelaide had spent 18 years writing them, and I owed her 18 years of attention. Outside, the Montana night settled over the farm. My inheritance, my legacy, my home, and I wasn't giving it up without a fight. Sloan Mercer arrived 30 minutes later with a leather briefcase and a grim expression. I'd spread Adelaide's evidence across the kitchen table. Bank statements, receipts, photographs, the letters arranged in chronological order along the counter. She stood in the doorway and stared. How long have you been reading it all night? It was true. I'd started with the first letter and hadn't stopped. 18 years of birthdays and Christmases and ordinary Tuesdays. Adelaide's handwriting had changed over the years. Steady and strong in the early letters, shakier toward the end, but the message never wavered. I love you. I'm looking for you. Come home. Willa, you need to sleep. I need to understand what I'm dealing with first. Sloan set her briefcase on the table and started sorting through the documents. Her face grew darker with each page. This is bad, she said finally. Really bad. Adelaide documented everything. Equipment sales, unauthorized withdrawals, forged signatures. If this is accurate, Callum stole over $90,000 in the last 18 months. It's accurate, Adelaide was meticulous. The question is, what do we do about it? If we go to the sheriff now, Callum will know we have evidence. He'll lawyer up, might even try to destroy records or intimidate witnesses. So what's the alternative? We build a stronger case, get official records from banks, talk to people who might have seen something. Make sure we have enough evidence that he can't wiggle out of it. She looked at me. But that takes time, and it's going to make Callum nervous. Are you prepared for that? I thought about the way he'd looked at the tractor, the warning in his voice, the threat barely disguised as concern. He's already nervous. That's why he came back tonight. Then we need to be careful. No more investigating alone. No more confrontations without backup. And for God's sake, don't let him in this house again. He has keys. Sloan's jaw tightened. We're changing the locks tomorrow. First thing. And I'm going to talk to Sheriff Hayes. He needs to know what's happening, even if we're not ready to file charges yet. She stayed until dawn, helped me organize Adelaide's evidence, made copies of everything, took photographs. By the time the sun came up, we had a filing system that would make any prosecutor happy. Get some sleep, Sloan said as she packed her briefcase. I'll be back this afternoon with a locksmith. And Willa, don't open the door for anyone except me or Silas. Understand? I nodded. She left. I locked the door behind her and climbed the stairs to my father's room. Lay down on the bed fully clothed, closed my eyes, and dreamed of letters that never reached their destination. Someone was pounding on the door. I jerked awake. Sunlight streamed through the window. My phone said it was past noon. I'd slept for 5 hours. The pounding continued. I went downstairs carefully, looked through the window. Delphine Crane stood on the porch holding a casserole dish. I opened the door. I was starting to worry, she said, pushing past me into the kitchen. Silas said Sloan's car was here half the night. Thought you might need food more than sleep. She set the casserole on the counter. Chicken and rice, still warm. I can't take this. You can and you will. You're too skinny and you're dealing with enough without worrying about groceries. She turned to face me, studied my face. What happened? Nothing. Don't lie to me, honey. I've lived in this town for 40 years. I know when something's wrong, and I know Callum Thorne. I hesitated. Sloan had said to be careful, But Delphine had been Adelaide's friend, had known her for decades. He came by last night, made threats. Delphine's expression hardened. What kind of threats? Told me I didn't know what I was getting into, that there were obligations Adelaide hadn't mentioned, that things would get difficult if I didn't partner with him. That snake. She pulled out a chair and sat. Adelaide told me about him 6 months before she died. Said he was pressuring her to change her will. Said he'd gotten mean about it. Started showing up at odd hours, going through her things when he thought she wasn't looking. Did she tell the sheriff? She tried, but Callum's careful. Never did anything she could prove. And Fletcher Hayes is a good man, but he needs evidence before he can act. Adelaide knew that. So she documented everything instead. Delphine nodded slowly. Smart woman. Always was. Where'd she hide it? The tractor. My father's old John Deere. A smile flickered across Delphine's face. Of course, Callum hated your father. Jealous, I think. Your dad was everything Callum wasn't. Kind, hardworking, loved. Callum wouldn't go near that machine if you paid him. Adelaide knew that. Adelaide knew a lot of things. Delphine stood. Listen to me, Willa. You're not alone in this. Half this town loved your grandmother. The other half respected her. Nobody likes Callum. If you need help, you ask. Understand? Why are you all being so kind to me? Because Adelaide spent 18 years telling us about you. Because your family. And because in a town this small, family matters. She headed for the door. Stopped. Eat that casserole. All of it. You're going to need your strength. She left before I could argue. I ate the casserole. She was right. I did need my strength. Sloan returned at 2 with a locksmith and Sheriff Fletcher Hayes. Fletcher was late 50s, graying hair, lines around his eyes that suggested he smiled often but wasn't smiling now. He shook my hand with a grip that was firm but not aggressive. Miss Thorne, I'm sorry we're meeting under these circumstances. Thank you for coming. Sloan filled me in on what you found. I knew Adelaide was worried about Callum, but I didn't know it was this serious. Can I see the evidence? We sat at the kitchen table. I showed him everything except the letters. Those felt too personal, too private. But I showed him the bank statements, the receipts, the photographs Adelaide had taken of Callum loading equipment into his truck. Fletcher went through it methodically, taking notes, asking questions. His expression never changed, but his pen moved faster as he read. This is solid, he said finally. Real solid. But I need to verify it before I can make an arrest. Bank records. Equipment, serial numbers, witness statements. That's going to take a few days. How long? Week, maybe. I'll move as fast as I can. In the meantime, I want you to be careful. Callum's desperate. Desperate people do stupid things. He came here last night, threatened her. Sloane's voice was sharp. Fletcher's jaw tightened. What kind of threats? Vague, but clear enough. Said things would get difficult if I didn't accept his partnership offer. Did he touch you? Make any physical threats? No. Then I can't arrest him yet, but I can have a deputy swing by here a few times a day, make sure you're safe. I don't want to cause trouble. You're not causing trouble, Callum is, and it's my job to stop him before he does something we'll all regret. He stood. Keep your doors locked. Don't go anywhere alone, and if he shows up again, you call me immediately, day or night. Understand? Yes, sir. He left. The locksmith got to work. Sloan stayed. You holding up okay? She asked. I don't know. This isn't what I expected when I came here. What did you expect? I don't know. Maybe just a quiet place to figure out my life. Not a fight over land and money and family I never knew I had. Adelaide didn't leave you this place to make your life easy. She left it because it's yours, because you deserve it, and because she knew you were strong enough to fight for it. How did she know that she never met me? She knew because you survived 18 years in foster care and came out the other side. That takes strength most people don't have. She saw that, even from a distance. Her words settled over me like a blanket, warm but heavy. Maybe Adelaide had seen something in me. Maybe she'd believed I could do this. I just had to figure out how to believe it myself. That evening, Silas came by with his son. Evander Whitfield was 26, tall, quiet, carpenter's hands in his father's steady eyes. He nodded when Silas introduced us but didn't say much. Thought I'd bring some help, Silas said. You've got fence line that needs repairing before spring, and Evander's better at carpentry than I ever was. Figure between the two of us we can get this place in shape. I can't afford to pay you. Didn't ask for payment, asked if you needed help. They worked until dark, fixing fence posts, checking the irrigation system, replacing rotted boards on the porch. I brought them coffee and watched and tried to understand why these people were being so kind to someone they barely knew. When they finished, Evander loaded his tools into the truck bed, paused. My dad talks about you like he's known you your whole life. Says Adelaide did the same thing. Talked about you so much we all felt like we knew you. That's strange, since she never met me. Not that strange, family's family, even when you're apart. He climbed into the truck. We'll be back tomorrow. Got more work to do. They drove away before I could argue. I stood on the newly repaired porch and watched the stars come out and felt something shift inside my chest. Maybe I wasn't as alone as I'd thought. The next morning I went to visit Adelaide's grave. The cemetery was on a hill 2 miles north of town. Small, peaceful, headstones dating back 100 years scattered among pine trees and wild grass. Adelaide's grave was in the family section. Next to my grandfather, next to my father and mother, I knelt in the damp grass and traced her name with my fingers. Adelaide Marie Thorne, beloved mother and grandmother, 1952-2024. I found your letters, I said quietly. All of them. I read every one. It took me all night. The wind moved through the trees. Birds called in the distance. I wish I'd known you. I wish the system hadn't kept us apart. But I'm here now, and I'm not leaving. I'm going to fight for this place. For what you wanted me to have, I promise. I stayed until my knees hurt. Then I stood and walked to the other graves. My father, William Thorne, dead at 27. My mother, Sarah Thorne, dead at 41. I hadn't known they were buried here. Hadn't known Adelaide had kept them close. I'm sorry I don't remember you, I whispered. But Adelaide did. She remembered all of us, and she made sure I'd come home. I left flowers on each grave, wild ones I'd picked from the field behind the barn. They weren't much, but they were all I had. Sloan called that afternoon. I talked to the bank. They confirmed the unauthorized withdrawals. And I found the equipment dealer Callum used to sell Adelaide's machinery. He kept records. Serial numbers match. We've got him, Willa. Fletcher's preparing an arrest warrant. My heart started pounding. When? Tomorrow probably, maybe the day after. Depends on how fast the judge moves. But soon, very soon. What happens to me when Callum finds out? Nothing, he'll be in jail. And even if he makes bail, there'll be a restraining order. He won't be able to come near you or this property. What if he tries anyway? Then he goes back to jail. Willa, you're safe, I promise. Let's go. Her words should have been comforting, but promises from adults had never meant much to me. Still, I thanked her and hung up and tried to feel relieved. Callum showed up that evening. I was in the barn checking supplies when I heard the SUV. By the time I got outside, he was out of the vehicle and walking toward me. We need to talk. I don't think that's a good idea. I don't care what you think. This is my family's land. Adelaide had no right to cut me out. She had every right. It was her property. It was our property. 3 generations of Thorns worked this land, including me. I put 2 years of my life into keeping this place running while she was sick, and she left it all to some foster kid who showed up out of nowhere. His voice was rising, getting angrier. I backed toward the house. You need to leave. I'm not leaving until you understand the situation. You don't belong here. You never did. And I'm not going to let you steal what's mine. It's not yours. The will was clear. The will was a mistake. Adelaide was confused at the end, didn't know what she was doing, but I have proof she wanted me to inherit. A new will, properly notarized, legal. My stomach dropped. What are you talking about? He pulled a folded document from his jacket. This, signed 3 weeks before she died, leaves me 50% of the farm. You can have the other half. We'll be partners, just like I suggested. I took the document, read it quickly. It looked official. Adelaide's signature at the bottom, a notary seal, witness signatures. But something was wrong. The handwriting was too steady. Adelaide's hands had been shaking for months, according to Silas, and the date was wrong. 3 weeks before she died, she'd been in the hospital, according to Sloan. This is fake. It's legal. It's fraud, and I'm calling the sheriff. I turned toward the house. Callum grabbed my arm. Don't. Let go of me. Not until you listen. You don't understand what you're dealing with. Adelaide owed money, lots of it, to people who don't care about wills or legal procedures. People who'll come after you if those debts aren't paid. You're lying. Am I? Ask yourself why Adelaide kept this place running alone for so long. Why she never hired help. Why she refused to sell even when land prices were good? It's because she was in debt, deep debt, and now that debt belongs to you. He let go of my arm, stepped back. I'm offering you a way out. Partner with me. I'll handle the debts. You keep half the farm. Everyone wins. Except I don't believe you. His expression hardened. Then you're a fool. And when those debts come due, don't come crying to me for help. He got in his SUV and drove away. I stood in the driveway shaking, pulled out my phone, called Sloan. Callum was just here. He has a will. Says Adelaide signed it 3 weeks before she died. Leaves him 50% of the property. Silence. Then describe it. I did. Every detail I could remember. It's fake, Sloan said firmly. The notary he used retired 4 years ago. I already checked when I was researching him. His seal is invalid, and Adelaide was hospitalized 3 weeks before she died. She couldn't have signed anything. He also claimed Adelaide had debts, said dangerous people were going to come after me. That's a lie. I've reviewed every financial record. Adelaide had no debts. The farm is free and clear. He's trying to scare you. It's working. Don't let it. Fletcher's moving up the timeline. We're arresting Callum tomorrow morning. Can you stay somewhere else tonight, just to be safe? Where would I go? Silas offered his guest room, or Delphine has space above the diner. Just somewhere Callum can't find you. I looked at the house. Adelaide's house. My house. No, I'm staying here. This is my home. I'm not running. Willa. I'll lock the doors. Keep my phone charged. But I'm not leaving. Sloan sighed. Fine, but I'm sending a deputy to watch the house tonight. And if Callum shows up again, you call 911 immediately. Okay? I mean it. Immediately. I will. She hung up. I went inside, locked every door, checked every window. Then I sat at the kitchen table with Adelaide's letters spread around me and Adelaide's note in my hand. There's more. Hidden deeper. You'll need help finding it. Trust Silas. Adelaide had said there was more evidence. Something beyond what I'd found in the tractor, but what and where. The deputy arrived at 10, young guy, early 20s. He parked in the driveway and settled in for a long night. I tried to sleep but couldn't. Every sound made me jump. Every creak of the house settling made my heart race. At midnight, I gave up and went to Adelaide's office. Started going through files again, looking for anything I'd missed. And I found it. Tucked in the back of a drawer, a small leather notebook, newer than the journal. Started just 2 months before Adelaide died. I opened it. The first entry made my blood run cold. Callum came by again today, asked me to sign papers. Said it was just for insurance purposes, but I read them. They were property transfer documents. He's trying to steal the farm before I die. I refused. He got angry, said I'd regret it. The next entry was worse. Callum came back, late, midnight, thought I was asleep. I heard him in the office, going through files, looking for something. When I confronted him, he said he had a right to know what would happen to the farm after I was gone. Told me it wasn't fair to leave everything to some stranger. He meant Willa. My heart broke. I kept reading, entry after entry, each one darker than the last. Callum showing up drunk, Callum demanding money, Callum threatening to contest the will, Callum saying he'd make sure I never got a penny. And then 2 weeks before Adelaide died, I'm afraid, truly afraid. Callum knows I found evidence of his stealing. He cornered me in the barn today. Said if I told anyone, he'd make sure Willa never inherited anything. That he'd burn the place down before he let her have it. I believe him, so I'm hiding everything carefully. The letters in the tractor where he'll never look. But the real evidence, the proof that will put him in prison, I'm giving to Silas. He'll know when to share it. If something happens to me, Willa will find her way to the truth. She's smart, strong. She'll know what to do. The final entry was dated 1 week before Adelaide died. I'm in the hospital. Callum visited, brought papers, tried to get me to sign while I was drugged. The nurses stopped him, but he'll try again. I know he will. I've asked Silas to record a video, something Willa can use if I'm not here to tell her myself. Everything is ready. The letters will bring her home. The evidence will give her justice. I'm running out of time, but I have to believe she'll be strong enough. Please, God, let her be strong enough. I closed the notebook. Adelaide had been terrified, and she'd died knowing Callum might win. But she'd prepared, had hidden evidence in multiple places, had trusted Silas with the most important proof. I needed to talk to Silas, needed to find out what Adelaide had given him. But it was midnight. It would have to wait until morning. I put the notebook in my pocket and went back to the kitchen. Made coffee I didn't drink. Watched the deputy's car through the window and waited for dawn. Morning came slowly. I dozed off at the kitchen table, woke to sunlight streaming through the window and the deputy knocking on the door. Miss Thorne's Sheriff Hayes is on his way. Says to tell you it's happening now. I splashed water on my face, made coffee, paced the kitchen until I heard vehicles in the driveway. Fletcher Hayes, two deputies, Sloan Mercer. They came to the door together. We're picking up Callum now, Fletcher said. Warrants signed. Charges include fraud, theft, elder abuse, and attempted extortion. He's going away for a long time. What do you need from me? Just stay here. Stay safe. We'll call when it's done. They left. I stood at the window and watched them drive away. Then I called Silas. Can you come over? There's something I need to ask you about. Be there in 10 minutes. I hung up and waited. Silas arrived with Evander. They both looked serious. What's wrong? Silas asked. I found another notebook. Adelaide's from the last 2 months of her life. She wrote that she gave you something, evidence, the real proof against Callum. Silas and Evander exchanged a look. I was wondering when you'd figure that out, Silas said. Come on, it's in my truck. We walked outside. Silas opened his toolbox in the truck bed, pulled out a locked metal case, opened it with a key from his keyring. Inside was a video camera, old model, the kind that recorded to SD cards. Adelaide asked me to film this 3 weeks before she died, Silas said. Said it was for you, said you'd need it when the time came. He handed me the camera. I turned it on. The screen flickered to life. Adelaide's face appeared, thin, pale, clearly sick. But her eyes were clear, focused. Willa, she said, her voice was weak but determined. If you're watching this, I'm gone, and I'm sorry. Sorry I couldn't be there. Sorry I couldn't protect you from Callum. But I did everything I could to prepare you. She coughed, took a shaky breath. The letters will bring you home. That's the most important thing. I want you to know you were loved, that you were never alone, that every day for 18 years I thought about you, wrote to you, searched for you. Tears streamed down her face. But there's more. Callum has been stealing from me. $91,000 over 18 months. I have proof, bank statements, receipts, photos, everything you need. I've hidden it in places he'll never think to look. Some in the tractor. But the most damning evidence, the recordings of him threatening me, the forged documents he tried to get me to sign, those are with Silas. He'll give them to you when you're ready. She reached toward the camera, like she was trying to touch me through the screen. I know you don't remember me. I know you grew up thinking no one wanted you. But that's not true. I wanted you. Every single day for 18 years. I searched for you. I wrote to you. I prayed for you. And even though I never found you, I never stopped loving you. Her voice broke. Be strong, sweetheart. Be brave. Don't let Callum or anyone else take what's yours. This land is your birthright, your legacy, your home. Fight for it. And know that wherever I am, I'm proud of you. So proud. The video ended. I stood there holding the camera and crying. Silas put a hand on my shoulder. There's more. Audio recordings, security footage I helped her set up in the barn, photos of Callum loading stolen equipment, everything you need to put him away for a long time. He pulled out a USB drive. It's all here. Give this to Fletcher. It's the final piece. My phone rang. Fletcher Hayes. We got him. Callum's in custody. Found him trying to leave town with a truck full of equipment he'd stolen from your barn. We caught him red-handed. He's not going anywhere for a very long time. I have more evidence. Video, audio, photos. Adelaide recorded everything and gave it to Silas for safekeeping. Silence. Then, bring it to my office. This just got a whole lot easier. I hung up, looked at Silas, at Evander, at the camera and the USB drive. Adelaide had thought of everything, had documented every crime, had made sure I'd have the proof I needed. She protected me even after she was gone. Thank you, I said to Silas, for keeping this safe, for helping her. She was my best friend. I'd do anything for her, including making sure her granddaughter got justice. We drove to the sheriff's office together, turned over the evidence, watched Fletcher's expression grow darker as he reviewed it. This is damning, he said. We've got him on everything. Theft, fraud, elder abuse, extortion, attempted forgery. He'll be lucky if he only gets 10 years. When's the trial? 6 weeks. But with this evidence, I doubt it'll last long. He'll probably take a plea deal. I drove back to the farm alone. The relief I'd expected didn't come. Instead, I just felt tired, sad. Adelaide had spent her last months afraid, had died without knowing if I'd ever come home, had left me all this evidence hoping I'd be strong enough to use it. And I had been. But it didn't feel like victory. It just felt like grief. I pulled into the driveway and sat in my truck, staring at the house. This was mine now. Truly mine. Callum was in jail. The threat was over. But Adelaide was still gone, and nothing would bring her back. I got out of the truck slowly, walked to the porch, sat on the steps. Evander's truck appeared at the end of the driveway. He pulled up and climbed out. Heard the news. Thought you might need company. I'm okay. No, you're not. He sat beside me. Winning doesn't make the grief go away. My mom died when I was 12. Cancer. And even after it was over, even after we knew she wasn't hurting anymore, I was still sad. Still angry that she was gone. I never even met Adelaide. How can I grieve someone I never knew? Because she loved you, and you loved her even if you didn't know it yet. That's what you're grieving, the years you lost, the relationship you could have had, all the what-ifs. His words hit something deep inside me. I spent 18 years thinking no one cared, and she was out here writing letters, searching, fighting. All that time someone loved me, and I didn't know. But you know now, and you're here. That's what she wanted. Not revenge on Callum, not even justice, really. She wanted you home, safe, with a place to belong. You're giving her that, even after she's gone. I leaned against his shoulder and let myself cry. For Adelaide, for the years we'd lost, for the grandmother I'd never known, and for the first time since I'd arrived, someone held me while I grieved. 3 days after Callum's arrest, I found myself standing in the county courthouse, watching him being led in wearing an orange jumpsuit and handcuffs. He looked smaller somehow, diminished. The confidence that had radiated off him like heat was gone. Now he just looked tired, defeated. Our eyes met across the courtroom. His narrowed with something that might have been hatred or might have been fear. I couldn't tell which. Didn't care. Sloane sat beside me. Professional, calm. Her briefcase sat at her feet, packed with 18 months of evidence that would put Callum away for years. The judge entered. We all stood. The proceedings were quick, formal. The prosecutor laid out the charges one by one. Fraud, grand theft, elder abuse, attempted extortion. Each charge carried years of prison time. Callum's lawyer tried to argue, claimed his client had been helping Adelaide, that the missing money was payment for services rendered, that the equipment sales were authorized. Then Sloane stood, opened her briefcase, and methodically destroyed every argument with bank statements, forged signatures, witness testimony, and Adelaide's video. When the video played, the courtroom went silent. Adelaide's voice filled the space, weak but clear, explaining how Callum had threatened her, pressured her, tried to steal from her while she was dying. I'm recording this because I'm afraid, Adelaide said on the screen, afraid that if something happens to me, no one will believe what he's done. But I have evidence, all of it, and I'm leaving it for my granddaughter, Willa Thorne. She'll know what to do. The judge watched the entire video without expression. Then he turned to Callum. Do you have anything to say for yourself? Callum's jaw worked. His lawyer whispered something. He shook his head. I did what I had to do, he said finally. His voice was hard. That farm belonged to my family. 3 generations of Thornes worked that land, and Adelaide was going to give it all to some stranger, some foster kid who never even met her. It wasn't right. So you stole from her. I took what should have been mine. The judge's expression didn't change. Bail is denied. Trial is set for 6 weeks from today. Until then, you'll remain in custody. The gavel fell. Callum was led away. He didn't look at me again. Outside the courthouse, Sloane turned to me. That's it. He's done. Even if he fights this at trial, we have more than enough to convict. How long will he serve? 7 to 10 years, probably. Maybe more if the judge wants to make an example. Elder abuse cases are taken seriously here. 7 to 10 years. It seemed like a long time, but it also seemed too short for what he tried to do. What happens now? Now you go home, you run your farm, you live your life, and you let the legal system handle Callum. That's it. That's it. I wanted it to feel like victory, like justice, but mostly it just felt empty. Callum was going to prison. Adelaide was still dead, and I was still alone on land I didn't know how to manage. I drove back to Riverside in silence. The courthouse was 40 miles away. The road wound through mountains and valleys, past farms and ranches that looked like they'd been there forever. When I pulled into my driveway, Evander's truck was already there. He and Silas were working on the irrigation system. They looked up when I parked. "How'd it go?" Silas asked. "He's staying in jail. Trial in 6 weeks." "Good." He wiped his hands on his jeans. "That's done then. Now you can focus on spring planting." "I don't know anything about spring planting." "Then it's time you learned." He gestured toward the fields. "You've got land here. Most of it's good soil. Been lying fallow for 2 years because Adelaide couldn't manage it alone. But we can bring it back. Plant corn, maybe some wheat. Get this place producing again." "That sounds expensive." "It is, but Adelaide left you $42,000 for exactly this purpose. And I know some folks who'll help with equipment and labor. You won't be doing this alone." I looked at the fields, brown and empty under the March sky, trying to imagine them green. Productive? Mine. "I don't know if I can do this." "Adelaide thought you could. That's good enough for me." He picked up his tools. "Come on, let's start with the basics. I'll teach you how to read soil, how to check irrigation lines, how to maintain equipment. Rest will come with time." So I learned. Silas was patient, methodical. He explained things in simple terms, then showed me how to do them myself. By the end of the day, I could identify 3 types of soil check for clogs in the irrigation system and change the oil on a tractor. It wasn't much, but it was a start. Evander worked quite quietly beside us, fixing things, building things. He didn't talk much, but when he did, his words were careful, thoughtful. "Your grandmother was proud of this place," he said as we cleaned up at sunset. "Used to tell my dad it was the only thing that kept her going, knowing that someday you'd come home and see it. She didn't even know if I'd want it. She knew, said you had thorn blood, said that meant something." "What does it mean?" He smiled, small but genuine. "Means you're stubborn, means you don't quit, means when someone tries to take what's yours, you fight back." He loaded tools into his truck bed. "You fought back. Adelaide would be proud." They left as the sun dropped behind the mountains. I stood on the perch and watched the sky turn from gold to purple to black. My land, and for the first time since I'd arrived, it almost felt real. That night, I read more of Adelaide's letters. I'd been working through them chronologically, 1 or 2 each evening. Tonight, I reached my 10th birthday. "Dearest Willa, you're 10 years old today, double digits, growing up so fast. I wonder what you look like now. Are you tall like your father? Do you have your mother's smile? I have so many questions and no way to get answers. I hired another investigator last week. The 14th. He promised results. They all promise results. But the system is designed to keep us apart. I'm starting to understand that, starting to accept it. But I won't stop trying. I can't. You're out there somewhere, and even if I never find you, I need you to know that someone is looking. Someone cares. Someone loves you. Happy birthday, sweetheart. Wherever you are, I hope it's a good day. Love always, Grandma Adelaide." I folded the letter carefully and added it to the growing stack on my nightstand. 14 investigators, 47 court petitions, 263 letters. Adelaide had spent 18 years fighting a system that wouldn't bend, and she'd never given up. I owed it to her to do the same with this farm. The next week passed in a blur of learning. Silas taught me about crop rotation, soil pH, frost dates, planting schedules, equipment maintenance, financial planning. Delphine taught me about the community, who to trust, who to avoid, how small-town politics worked, how to navigate social dynamics when everyone knew everyone's business. Evander taught me carpentry, how to fix fences, repair barn doors, patch roofs. His teaching style was different from his father's. Less talking, more showing, but equally effective. And slowly I started to feel competent, started to understand the rhythm of farm life, the way seasons dictated work, the way land demanded attention and rewarded patience. One evening, Delphine invited me to dinner at her house. Small gathering. Just her, Silas, Evander, and a few other neighbors I'd met in passing. Margaret Sullivan was there, the woman who'd greeted me my first day in Riverside. She hugged me like we were old friends. "Your grandmother would be so happy to see you here," she said. "So happy to see you staying, fighting for this place." I didn't have much choice. There's always a choice, honey. You could have sold, taken the money and left. A lot of people would have, but you stayed. That takes courage. The dinner was simple. Roast chicken, vegetables from someone's greenhouse, fresh bread. Conversations flowed easily. Stories about Adelaide, about the farm, about the community. I listened more than I talked. Learning, observing. starting to understand that this town wasn't just a place Adelaide had lived. It was a family she'd built, and now that family was extending to include me. After dinner, Evander walked me to my truck. "You settling in okay?" he asked. "I think so. It's a lot, but it's starting to feel less overwhelming." "Good." He hesitated. "Listen, I know you've been through hell. The whole thing with Callum, Adelaide dying, finding out you had family you never knew about. It's a lot to process. I'm managing. I know you are. But if you ever need anything, someone to talk to, someone to just sit with, I'm here. We all are." Something in his voice made me look at him more carefully. He was watching me with an expression I couldn't quite read. Concern maybe, or something deeper. "Thank you," I said quietly. He nodded, stepped back. "Get home safe." I drove through the dark Montana night thinking about community, about family, about the way Adelaide had built something here that outlasted her death, and about the way these people were letting me be part of it. Spring came slowly to Montana. The snow melted, the ground thawed, green shoots appeared in the fields, birds returned, the air warmed, and with Silas's guidance I planted my first crop. 400 acres of corn, 200 acres of wheat, 100 acres left fallow pause to recover. It took 3 weeks, long days of driving tractors, checking seed depth, monitoring soil moisture. My hands blistered, my back ached. I fell into bed each night too exhausted to dream. But when it was done, when the last seed was in the ground and the irrigation system was running smoothly, I stood at the edge of the field and felt something close to pride. "You did good," Silas said beside me. "Real good. Adelaide would be proud. I couldn't have done it without you." That's how farming works. Nobody does it alone. You help your neighbors, they help you. That's how we survive out here. "Why are you helping me, really? You barely know me." He was quiet for a long moment. "Because Adelaide was my best friend. Because I watched her grieve for 18 years over a granddaughter she couldn't reach. Because when she died, she made me promise to look after you, to teach you, to make sure you had everything you needed to succeed. She asked you to do that." "She did, 2 days before she died. Called me to the hospital. Could barely talk, but she made me swear. Said you'd need help. Said you'd be too proud to ask for it. Said I had to make sure you didn't fail." My throat tightened. She really believed in me. "She did, more than you know." He turned to face me, and she was right too. "You're stronger than you think, Willa. You came here with nothing. No family, no experience, no idea what you were walking into. But you fought, you learned, you stayed. That takes guts. I didn't have anywhere else to go." "Yes, you did. You could have sold this place, taken the money, started over somewhere easier. But you didn't. You chose to stay. To fight for what Adelaide wanted you to have. That matters." His words settled over me like a weight. Adelaide had believed in me, had trusted me with her legacy, had made sure I'd have people to help me succeed. And I was starting to believe maybe she'd been right. Callum's trial started in late April. Sloan called me the night before. "You don't have to attend. I can handle everything. But if you want to be there, if you want to face him, I'll be right beside you." "Will Adelaide's video be shown again?" "Yes, along with all the evidence. The jury needs to see everything." "Then I'll be there." The trial lasted 3 days. The prosecution presented Adelaide's video, the bank statements, the receipts, the forged documents. Witness after witness testified. Equipment dealers who'd bought stolen machinery, bank employees who'd flagged suspicious withdrawals, neighbors who'd seen Callum loading Adelaide's property into his truck. The evidence was overwhelming. Callum's lawyer tried, claimed Adelaide had been confused, that the equipment sales were authorized, that Callum had been acting in good faith, but the jury didn't buy it. On the third day, they deliberated for less than 2 hours, guilty on all counts. The judge sentenced him immediately, 10 years, no possibility of parole for 7. Callum stood when the sentence was read. His face was pale. His lawyer whispered something, but Callum shook his head. "I want to say something." The judge nodded. "Go ahead." Callum turned to face me. "I'm not sorry for fighting for what should have been mine. That farm belonged to my family. 3 generations of Thorns worked it. I had every right to it." "You had no right to steal," the judge said coldly. "I took what was owed to me, and I'd do it again." His eyes locked on mine. "You think you won, but you're just a kid playing farmer. You'll fail, you'll lose everything, and when you do, you'll wish you'd taken my offer." "That's enough," the judge said. Take him away. Deputies led Callum out. He didn't look back. The courtroom emptied slowly. Sloane gathered her files. That's it. It's over. He's going to prison. You're free. But I didn't feel free. I felt tired, sad, angry at Callum, angry at the system that had kept Adelaide and me apart, angry at fate for taking her before I could meet her. Outside, Evander was waiting. He'd come to the trial, sat in the back, hadn't said a word. You okay? He asked. I don't know. That's fair. He gestured to his truck. Come on. Let's get out of here. We drove in silence for a while. Then he pulled off onto a side road that led up into the mountains, parked at an overlook with a view of the valley below. Adelaide used to bring me here when I was a kid, he said. Whenever I was upset about something, she'd drive me up here and we'd just sit, look at the view. Eventually I'd talk, and she'd listen. Never judged, just listened. I stared at the valley, at the patchwork of farms and fields, at Riverside in the distance, small and peaceful. I keep thinking about all the years we lost, I said finally. All the birthdays and Christmases and ordinary days. All the time Adelaide spent looking for me while I was in foster homes, thinking no one cared. It's not fair. No, it's not. And Callum, he's going to prison, but that doesn't bring her back. Doesn't give me the 18 years we should have had. Nothing can do that? So what's the point? What am I supposed to do with all this anger? Evander was quiet for a long time. Adelaide told my dad once that anger is just grief in disguise. That when we lose something important, we get angry because it's easier than admitting how much it hurts. I am angry, and it does hurt. I know, but Adelaide also said that the best way to honor someone you love is to live the life they wanted for you. She wanted you to have that farm, to have a home, to have family. You're doing that. That's the point. I thought about Adelaide, about her letters, her video, her 18 years of hope. She'd wanted me to have a place to belong, a legacy, a future, and she'd fought until her last breath to make that possible. You're right, I said quietly. She wanted me here, so I'm staying. Good, Evander started the engine. Now let's go home. You've got crops to tend. 6 months passed. Summer came. The corn grew tall. The wheat turned golden. I worked every day, learning, adapting, making mistakes and figuring out how to fix them. Silas was there every step of the way, teaching me when to irrigate, how to identify pests, when to harvest. The old man had more patience than anyone I'd ever met. Evander came by most evenings, helped with repairs, sat on the porch with coffee, talked about nothing and everything. Somewhere along the way, those evening conversations turned into something more. A hand held, a kiss stolen under the stars, a relationship neither of us rushed, but both of us welcomed. Delphine checked on me weekly, brought food, gossip, motherly advice I pretended to ignore but secretly appreciated. The community embraced me fully. I was invited to everything. Town meetings, church socials, harvest festivals. People stopped seeing me as Adelaide's granddaughter and started seeing me as Willa, as one of them. By September, when the harvest came in, I'd transformed from a terrified foster kid into something else. A farmer, a landowner, a member of a community. The crops yielded well. Not great, but good enough for a first year. Enough to pay the bills. Enough to set aside savings. Enough to prove I could do this. The $42,000 Adelaide had left me went exactly where she'd intended. $20,000 to spring planting and equipment. $10,000 to repairs and improvements. $12,000 sat in savings for the emergencies that would inevitably come. She'd calculated it perfectly. Just enough to give me a fighting chance. On the anniversary of finding Adelaide's letters, I drove to the cemetery. Her grave was well tended. Flowers from the community covered the ground. A small American flag fluttered in the breeze. I knelt and placed my own flowers. Wild ones from the field behind the barn. Same as I'd done that first day. I did it, I said quietly. I kept the farm, brought in a harvest. Callum's in prison. The community accepted me. Everything you wanted for me. Everything you fought for. I did it. The wind moved through the trees, carried the scent of harvested wheat and coming autumn. I wish you could have seen it. Wish you could have taught me yourself. But Silas and Evander and Delphine, they all helped. They told me about you, about who you were, about how much you loved me, and I finally understand. I traced her name on the headstone. You never gave up. 263 letters, 18 years. You never stopped believing I'd come home. And I did. Finally, I came home. And I'm staying. This is my land now, my legacy, my home. No one's taking it from me. Not Callum, not anyone. I promise. I stood, brushed grass from my knees. Thank you for everything, for never giving up, for leaving me something to fight for making sure I'd have a place to belong. I love you, and I'll make you proud. I swear it. The cemetery was peaceful, quiet, but I felt Adelaide there somehow, felt her approval, her love. I walked back to my truck, drove home through fields I'd planted and tended and harvested, my inheritance, my responsibility, my future. That evening, Evander came by for dinner. I'd learned to cook over the summer. Nothing fancy but edible. Tonight it was pot roast, Adelaide's recipe found in a notebook in the kitchen. We ate on the porch, watched the sunset behind the mountains, talked about the harvest, about winter preparations, about plans for next year. I've been thinking, Evander said after a while, about Adelaide, about everything she did for you. What about it? She left you more than just land and money. She left you a roadmap, showed you that love doesn't require presence. That family isn't just blood. That home is something you build, not something you are given. That's a very poetic way of looking at it. It's true, though. Look at what you've built here. In just 6 months, you've got a working farm, a community that supports you, people who care about you, a life. He paused. That's what Adelaide wanted. Not just for you to own land, but for you to have a life worth living. I thought about the girl who'd stepped off the bus 6 months ago. Scared, alone, convinced she didn't deserve good things. That girl was gone. In her place was someone stronger. Someone who'd fought for what was hers. Someone who'd learned that family was more than blood and home was more than walls. You're right, I said. She did give me all that, and I'm grateful. She'd be proud of you. You know that, right? I hope so. I know so. He took my hand, squeezed gently. I'm proud of you too, for what it's worth. It's worth a lot. We sat together as the stars came out, two people on a porch in Montana, surrounded by land that had been fought for and earned, building something that would last. 1 year after I found Adelaide's letters, I hosted my first Thanksgiving at the farm. The house was full. Silas and Evander, Delphine and Margaret, a dozen other neighbors who'd helped me through that first year. We crowded around Adelaide's dining table, passed dishes, told stories, laughed. Before we ate, Silas raised his glass. To Adelaide, who never gave up, and to Willa, who proved her grandmother right. To Adelaide, everyone echoed. We drank, we ate, we celebrated. And for the first time in my life, I understood what family felt like. Not foster placements, not temporary arrangements, but real family, chosen family. People who showed up not because they had to, but because they wanted to. After dinner, Dinah Foster arrived. I'd invited her weeks ago. She'd driven 6 hours from Seattle to be here. She hugged me tight when she walked in. Look at you, you're glowing. I'm happy. I can tell. She looked around the house, at the people, at the warmth. This is what Adelaide wanted for you, isn't it? It is. Diana pulled an envelope from her purse. I should have given you this sooner, but I was waiting for the right time. Adelaide contacted me 5 years ago, asked me to take special care of you when you came into the system at 16. Said you were her granddaughter, and she wanted to make sure you had at least one stable placement before you aged out. My breath caught. She what? She couldn't tell you who she was. The system wouldn't allow it. But she could request that you be placed with specific foster families. She chose me, made me promise to treat you like family, to give you stability, to prepare you for independence. Tears filled my eyes. I thought that placement was random. Nothing with Adelaide was random. She'd been planning your homecoming for 18 years. That included making sure you'd be strong enough to handle it when the time came. Diana handed me the envelope. She wrote this for you. Asked me to give it to you when you were settled, when you were home. I opened it with shaking hands. Inside was a letter, the 264th. My dearest Willa, if Diana is giving you this, it means you made it. You came home. You kept the farm. You found your place. I'm so proud of you. I know the journey was hard. I know you faced things I couldn't protect you from. But you survived. You thrived. You became exactly who I always knew you could be. Strong, brave, resilient. You are everything your father would have wanted. Everything I dreamed you'd become. Welcome home, sweetheart. You've earned it. All my love forever and always, Grandma Adelaide. I held the letter and cried. Diana hugged me. Evander put his arm around us both. And I realized something profound. Adelaide hadn't just left me land, she'd orchestrated my entire path home, had influenced my foster placements, had prepared me for this life without me ever knowing. She'd loved me that completely, that thoroughly. I excused myself after a while, went upstairs to my room, pulled out the box of letters, 264 now, one for every year, plus this final gift. I'd had them framed, some hung on walls throughout the house, some kept safe in albums, all of them treasured. But tonight I needed to read them again, to remember the journey, to honor the woman who'd made it all possible. I pulled out the video camera, Adelaide's last message, watched her face appear on the screen one more time. Be strong, sweetheart, be brave. Don't let anyone take what's yours. I'd done that. I'd been strong. I'd been brave. I'd fought and I'd won. Not just the farm, not just the legal battles. I'd won something bigger. I'd found home, found family, found myself. I turned off the camera, put it back in the box, went downstairs to my family. Evander was on the porch, waiting. You okay? He asked. Yeah, I was just thinking about Adelaide, about how she orchestrated all of this. Even my foster placement. She'd been planning my homecoming for 18 years. She loved you that much. She did, and I never knew. I leaned against the railing. You know what's amazing? I spent 18 years in foster care thinking I was alone, thinking no one cared, and the whole time Adelaide was out there, writing letters, searching, loving me from a distance, even arranging my placements when she could. She never gave up on you. No, she didn't. And I'm never going to give up on this place, on what she wanted for me, on the family she made sure I'd have. Evander pulled me close. You don't have to do this alone anymore. You know that, right? I'm starting to. We stood together under the Montana stars, two people who'd found each other through grief and healing, and the legacy of a woman who'd never stopped believing. Inside the house was full of laughter, of life, of family, Adelaide's house, my house, our house, home. I never forgot the moment I found those letters, the weight of the metal box in my hands, the sight of all those envelopes marked "Return to Sender." The realization that someone had loved me for 18 years without ever meeting me again. That moment changed everything. It taught me that love doesn't require presence, that family isn't defined by proximity, that home is something you carry inside you even when you don't know it's there. Adelaide spent 18 years writing to a ghost, hoping, believing, refusing to accept that the system had won, and in the end she hadn't lost. Because I came home, because I found her letters, because I learned the truth. I was wanted. I was loved. I belonged. 264 letters proved it. And now, standing on the porch of the house she'd maintained for me, surrounded by the community she'd built, living the life she'd dreamed I'd have, I finally understood. Adelaide hadn't just left me an inheritance. She'd left me a legacy of love that no one could ever take away. Not Callum, not the foster care system, not distance or time or death. She'd loved me across 18 years of separation. And that love had brought me home, to this farm, to this family, to this life. Home, finally completely home, and I was never leaving again.